Greg Schulze has spent more than 2 decades helping build one of the most influential companies in modern travel. And yes, that company is Expedia Group. But here's the thing about Greg. He doesn't talk like a corporate executive. He talks like a traveler. He's lived and worked all over the world. He named his dog Kaya after a coconut jam he discovered while living in Southeast Asia, and he still lights up when describing what it feels like to walk through an airport on the cusp of somewhere new. Greg's career has spanned from American Airlines in the early 2000s to leading Expedia Group's global commercial strategy today, a period that's seen the birth of OTAs, the rise of mobile, and now the dawn of the AI-powered traveler. In this episode, Greg and I explore how Expedia has evolved from a .com startup to a travel empire spanning Expedia, Hotels.com, and Vrbo, what he's learned from 20 years of guiding one of the most complex global marketplaces in the world, the real story behind Expedia's relationship with independent operators, and what partner forward actually means, how the tension between discovery and control will define the next generation of travel, and why he believes the future of OTAs will be built not on ads or algorithms, but on trust, clarity, and flexibility. Greg's a global citizen in the truest sense of the word, deeply thoughtful about the human side of technology and the emotional heartbeat of travel itself. This conversation is the second episode in the new Behind the Stays series, The Future of Travel, recorded live at Explore Connect, which is Expedia's user conference in Austin, Texas, a gathering of the world's top vacation rental operators and hospitality leaders. If you care about where the industry is headed and how the people behind its biggest brands are thinking about discovery, booking, and guest experience in the years ahead, this is a must listen. All right, friends, without further ado, get ready to meet Expedia Group's Chief Commercial Officer, Greg Schulze. So, Greg, if I were to crash a happy hour with you and the people that know you best, the people that love you most, and if I were to ask them to tell me a story about Greg, is there a story that you think they'd immediately tell? And if so, what is that story?
Well, first of all, you don't have to crash. You're invited.
Oh, okay, sold.
I'd love to see there's that. Can we? And I would say it would be a Friday evening. I would probably be very tired and jet lagged because of a week of traveling, and they would say, hurry up and talk to Greg before he leaves because I'm going to head home early. And the people who know me well know that I've lived had quite an unusual career that's taken me all over the world in constant motion, and that's been a defining part of my life and then my family's life, and it's been quite rich. They would probably also say something about my dog because my dog plays a prominent role in my life. So, yeah, Kaya.
Kaya.
Yeah.
Hawaiian name or no?
Actually, it's Singaporean. Well, she's Indonesian. This is her she's lived in 4 countries.
Wow.
Actually,
as one does when you're
right.
their dad.
She's. It was named after not the Bob Marley album,
Okay.
which is a whole different definition of Kaya. It's the Kaya jam coconut jam that's popular in Southeast Asia, and she's a golden retriever, so she's Kaya.
Wow. I do have to ask, and I like to ask this question to folks who travel frequently, and I think you certainly fit that category. Is there a season of life where you enjoyed the travel most? Because I talk to folks who have traveled significantly more than I have and are further along in their careers than I have. And right now, I love it. I think it's amazing and fun. And they're tired. They're done. Are you tired of the travel?
I don't ever want to be tired of travel. And it's a great question. And my answer is it's different. Every season of life is different. Mm-hmm. And how you're experiencing it, who you're experiencing it with, that all changes. And what I considered an amazing vacation when I was growing up was a road trip around the Midwest. And I remember the first plane travel that I did in junior high was it opened a whole new world to me. And And then now I wouldn't think twice about, like, I can do 19 hours from New York to Singapore and spend the weekend on the equator in Southeast Asia. Like, so your perspective changes, the experiences change, but they're all great for their own reasons. And I do think that it's important to have that spirit of exploration and curiosity. And otherwise, I mean, look, I take trips, the business travel that just requires me to go from here to there and do a meeting and that's it. But even that, you keep your eyes open, you meet interesting people, see interesting things.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of interesting things and experiences and getting to do and see a lot, you've been at Expedia Group for a couple of decades, and I have to imagine you've seen you look great. Like, it's hard to believe, Greg. Okay, it's impossible. It's hard
for me to believe.
but you had to have seen an incredible amount of change during that time. You think back to the early 2000s, right as people are even for the very first time able to book a vacation, book a flight online, to where we are today. I'd love to just hear some reflections about those early days. Like, when you joined Expedia Group, what did you think you were joining? Like, what did the company look like back then?
Yeah, it's 20 years with Expedia and 25 or 26 years in travel.
Wow.
So I worked for American Airlines before Expedia, and I was in business school. I studied engineering, manufacturing, and went to business school, and really did an exploration of my, like, deep self to figure out what I was going to do with my life, because I knew it wasn't manufacturing. And I landed on travel. And so I knew I wanted to do travel. I was going to find a role in travel. I had studied engineering, so I went into an analytical role, did revenue management at American Airlines. And that was fantastic. It was a good way for me to get into the industry. I learned a ton and went through some difficult times. That was, like, some good times and then some bad times in the late 90s and early 2000s. And a lot changed during that time, a lot in technology. I remember we were pushing kiosks because the September 11th happened, 2001, and there was all kinds of new security protocols, and the push was to get people through faster, and we thought that, and to cut costs, we thought that the kiosks would work. And I was, even as a young person, I said, I don't think people are going to want to go to the kiosk. They want to talk to the person at the counter, right? That's what we do. And of course, that's not what people want to do. You want to talk to no one when you are flying. And there was something that kind of clicked with me, that there is a good and bad way to experience that travel. The whole process, starting from your search and your dreaming, your searching, your booking, and the travel experience itself. And the internet was really rising in prominence. And I was working in internet pricing, which was a whole new field, and got to know some of the OTAs quite well. And I was really impressed, especially with a little one called Hotwire, which was doing these interesting, like, bidding and opaque pricing. And as a revenue management person at an airline, I thought this is a great tool for me to sell seats with an opaque price. And I was really impressed with the way they talked about revenue management as a technology company. And but not everyone was like that, but I started to explore these companies, and I really found Expedia to kind of have it all. It was a big, broad brand. It had already launched well into the consumer mindset, and so it was doing quite well. And they really used technology strategically, and I loved that. And it was not long before we ended up buying Hotwire. So that was fun, and then it added Travelocity and Orbitz and HomeAway and Vrbo, which has become Vrbo. So it's been an amazing journey. But those early days were really incredible. We were much smaller, much smaller company.
Yeah.
The business was much smaller, and a lot of it was about convincing people to put in their credit card and make a large purchase online.
When a company that grows to be the size that Expedia Group is today, it doesn't come without a lot of pain, a lot of change. I won't ask you to divulge too much of that here, but I'm curious, from your perspective, as the company grew up, as you guys expanded brand awareness among multiple consumer segments, how did you all stay focused? Like, what were you focused on? And I'm sure it changed depending on the season, right, or the decade even. But from my perspective anyways, you guys have done a really good job at consumer marketing from the beginning. How from your perspective were you able to, amidst massive change, kind of stay focused on the core problem? Any musings there?
Yeah. Well, first, I would say my first 20 years were really in two eras. The first part was exactly what you described. It was about building that community. It was a lot about the brand. It was about technology too. A lot of people don't know, but Expedia was founded as part of Microsoft, and Microsoft developed air pricing technology that could be done on PCs rather than these giant mainframes. And it was quite powerful, and that became the core of Expedia. So it was that combination of technology and brand building. The brands were amazing, though. I would come back into the country, and they would say, like, who do you work for, or whatever, and I would say Expedia, and inevitably they would be like, .com. It was a well-known jingle then. And so that was the first era. And then the mobile phone and the smartphones in particular really changed how people engaged with information across the internet, but certainly in travel. And that's really defined the last 10 or so years. And it's going to be interesting to see what defines the next era.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I want to dive into that a little bit because you have talked a little bit about how you sense that you guys are entering a really like a growth era, and you're focused now on thinking about, okay, how are we setting the tone for the next decade and the decade after that? How are you helping guide your teams to think through the challenges and really the opportunities that you see facing the consumer today, facing the business traveler today? What are the areas of focus that you're asking the team to think about, that you're thinking about? What keeps you up at night? What are you excited about with respect to growth?
The first big change for Expedia Group has been, the fact that we're called Expedia Group. And so it's multiple brands, it's multiple sources of demand, including a large B2B network. And so my team, we're responsible for ensuring that there's great product for our travelers. And fueling that marketplace with great travel product is really the first and fundamental task of our team. Making sure that we have all of it to sell, and that we have the best prices, that we have special pricing depending on what you're looking for, and then we put that into the marketplace. And then it's really like, how do we use technology to match that supply with the right traveler, the right supply with the right traveler? And that's where technology has been really powerful in travel, because there are many, many options when you want to take a trip.
Yeah.
And there's billions of flight options. There are many thousands of destinations that you can choose and types of accommodations to stay. So how do you distill all that into a great plan? And of course, everyone's talking about this with AI and the way it can do it, but it starts with that inventory that we have, the data that we have, and the way that we structure that data in a way that we present the right information to travelers to help them make informed choice.
Yeah. Do you think, I think about just my own search behavior and how dramatically it's changed really since the advent of ChatGPT in November of 2022, right? Which I think was, at least for dumb people like me, the first real sort of like experience I had of using a consumer-facing AI-friendly, or I should say a consumer-friendly AI-facing product. When I think about Expedia and I think about you guys as sort of an owner of search, an owner of search demand, how are you guys thinking through as consumer demand shifts, as the channels, as the resources that consumers use to discover where they want to go, to compare hotels, to compare flights, as that all shifts, how do you think that affects Expedia's business?
Yeah, well, AI is a major technological topic. It's not a new topic exactly in that it's how is technology used to make decisions or to sort through information. But the power of that technology is so much greater now, which is really exciting because it allows us to do new things. And we've thought about AI in three main areas. The first is just how do we get more productive as a company and as a team. And we all have personal AI goals. We're using some really interesting tools in our sales team, especially in our customer service, that sort of thing. It's that's the first group of work. The second is how do we make our products better for our travelers and also our partners, the hotels, the vacation rental owners, airlines. And AI can play a really important role for that. And we're doing some really exciting things on our brands to leverage AI. We're using that to help travelers sort through all the reviews and all the information that they need, like for vacation rentals. It's a complicated purchase. How do we help them make that choice? And then also with partners and providing the right information at the right time using AI to our partners. The third category is really what you're talking about, which is there is a new product, a new experience that does have application in travel, and we want to be a part of that. And we're doing partnerships with OpenAI and Perplexity and these companies that, and we see that as a potential large source of traffic for us. The key for Expedia Group is that we're a marketplace, and we have a huge amount of inventory that can be offered and a lot of information that's useful for an LLM. And so we feel like we're a really critical partner for these companies. Sam Altman was on our board for a number of years. We've been thinking about AI for quite some time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see how you guys continue to lean in here. I think about this a lot because just, again, as my own consumer behavior suggests, if I'm making blueberry muffins for my 2-year-old son who likes blueberry muffins, it's super easy to just ask ChatGPT to whip up a quick recipe for me. But when it comes to asking ChatGPT to help with finding me, the best hotel in whatever city I'm headed to next, there's something beautiful about it knowing me and being able to personalize the options to me. But then there's this question that I have of like, okay, well, did I prompt it well enough, right? I want, what are all the possible choices that I could have, right? Great to have these 1, 2, or 3 options. But I think when it comes to travel, which is just different than maybe how we would prompt these agents more generally or in other contexts, consumers want the choice. There's something beautiful about, and fun, quite frankly, about scrolling through lots of options, right? And so now, again, that might not be true for every consumer and for every trip, but I do think that with respect to the travel industry, is this interesting like nuance to really figure out is how do you help deliver great options? How do you help limit choice to some extent? But then not forget about the fact that half of the fun about planning a trip is planning the trip, right? Is the discovery component. How do you guys think about this?
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's all of our experience. That you have this the different phases of travel. It's not just the travel itself, but the dream and discovery and planning and booking. And they say that the time between booking and travel is actually your happiest point with that anticipation. And post booking. And all of that is part of the travel journey. And I believe very strongly in the power of technology to help us through that entire journey, but it won't replace it.
Yeah.
It needs to be supplemental or additive, and that's really how we're approaching AI. That first of all, we know not just your traffic patterns or how you've searched, but we know what people have booked. We know what you've booked. We know the quality of the options that you're looking at and how that matches with your expectations. And to use powerful technology to ensure that you are seeing that full range of options that would be best for you is really the opportunity with this technology. Now, I don't believe that it will replace that you will ever enter a couple things into a ChatGPT prompt and be done.
Yeah.
I just don't think that is how people want to experience travel planning. Can it be easier? Of course. And should we try to ensure that technology is making taking out the pain and leaving the good? That's really our focus.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about this tension that I think has built over the last, let's say, decade between independent operators of hotels, of collections of vacation rentals. I think back to the early days of platforms like Airbnb. Obviously, Vrbo predates Airbnb, which I think is news to maybe your general travel consumer. But you've observed this shift in how OTAs were like this magic box. You could list your hotel, list your vacation rental on some website on the internet, and it would be booked, right? And there'd be cash in your bank account, and somebody was staying in your home. And there was this season, this moment, right, where the tax, if you will, associated with that seemed very reasonable, I think, to most folks. In recent years, there has been more tension between folks. There are movements such as the Book Direct movement, where folks, especially professional operators, hotel owners, but also professional vacation rental management operators, see the OTAs as maybe a necessary evil, maybe even as antagonistic towards their core business. I've got lots of personal feelings on that approach or that thinking, right? But I'm curious to get your perspective on sort of the timeline, maybe even between OTAs being this source of magic to now, and I think technology plays a big role in this. Folks have become much more sophisticated in building their own direct booking ecosystems, building their own demand channels. But how have you observed that shift in let's call it supplier mindset and behavior? And then what role do you think OTAs like Expedia and Vrbo play over the next decade? Big question there, I know.
That's
I'm sorry.
a big question. And I appreciate the question. It's for us. Well, I spent my career in that bridge,
Yeah.
right? And it is critical for us at Expedia Group to have strong partnerships with suppliers, independent hotels, vacation rental hosts, major airlines, big hotel chains, like the full range, because that's travel. We are the travel marketplace, so we have strong partnerships there. And I have seen how things have changed over the years. Magic box, maybe at the beginning, I like that description, but it pretty quickly went to this feeling, especially the big airlines or the big hotel chains, where, well, we should be doing that. Why aren't we getting more of that business directly from us? And then Google came onto the scene, and all of that kind of tension in those maybe late 2010s, mid 2010s. I think we're in a different era now, really, Zach. I think that our partnerships are strong based on a mutual understanding and trust, and that we add value to the ecosystem, that we're bringing in demand that they are never going to be able to efficiently source on their own. And we're presenting the product in a way that represents it well and that is good for the traveler and good for them. And that is the general consensus that I see. Could we do some things better, or is it always perfect? Of course not. But our commitment, because we believe that our fundamental strength in this industry is this, our supply, are these partnerships. Our commitment is to be partner forward. And I would say, you mentioned Vrbo predates Airbnb. Vrbo, Vrbo, before that, our HomeAway, they started as a natural outgrowth of a fledgling industry, that people were always staying in these beach homes or mountain homes, but it was really hard to find, and so we started using some technology way back when to help travelers find these great homes. It was very much, we were at the center of the vacation rental industry. It was very small, and we helped it grow. It was our, it's very much, we're not an intermediary or a tech company. We are very much the vacation rental industry, and continue to evolve the technology and build great new features, and it became what it is today. And I think that does distinguish us a bit from our competitors, that travel is more core to what we do. We are, of course, a technology company, but we are a travel company that leverages technology.
As you guys think about the Vrbo product in particular, and please educate me here because I don't know enough about this aspect of the business, but Vrbo, previously VRBO, stood for vacation rental by owner, which I think sort of implies, at least from my perspective, like the original host, right? I think Airbnb sort of, they didn't come up with the word host, but they maybe made it popular in the context of the industry today. Does Vrbo have a specific strategy for the professional VRM operators? How much do you think about as they would self-identify as the VRMs versus sort of the individual owners that might list their family beach house on the platform? I think that tension in particular across an array of OTAs has been a challenging one for a lot of the folks that listen to this podcast, for instance. How do you guys think about that tension, and where are you prioritizing resources with respect to new features and product to address the varying needs that these audiences have?
Yeah, it's true. There are varying needs, but they're both an important part of the vacation rental supply. And so our commitment is to have both segments on Vrbo. And by the way, on the broader Expedia Group marketplace, on Expedia, we're selling vacation rental properties. And in our B2B business, we're beginning to sell more and more vacation rental properties. And the technology required for each is somewhat different. But to the traveler, in the end, they don't really know or necessarily care whether it's managed professionally or it's an individual host. They care about the experience, though. And some of the professional managers provide amazing experiences, but of course some of the individual hosts do as well. And our goal is to have a trusted marketplace where any traveler can find any property and know what they're going to get and make an informed choice. And so we're investing in the technology with our professional property managers that and providing the right flexibility in our systems that allow both to thrive. And I think that's one of the things that distinguishes us. We haven't taken a dogmatic approach about this is how you work with us. Instead, we've listened and tried to develop products that work well for the professional property managers, for our individual hosts, but ultimately for the travelers.
Yeah. I mean, what's really exciting about a business like the one that you all have built and are building and scaling, you do have this like unique opportunity given your various brands and how they fit within the context of Expedia Group to really be like the solution, like the one-stop shop for travel. Maybe I want to stay in a hotel the first night I get to the new city I'm staying in, but then I want to go and stay in a vacation rental that I booked through Vrbo for the next 7 days, and then I want a hotel on the way home.
I've done this, actually.
Yeah, okay, right?
Yeah.
And that's very unique with respect to your competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think how you guys communicate that story to the consumer, to the traveler, especially the next generation of travelers, is where it will matter, and where the real opportunity exists. That's my view. I'd love as we prepare to close out here, Greg, just any hot takes you have on the future of travel. Again, maybe hearkening back to that question of what keeps you up at night. What are you excited about, even personally? Maybe it's a feature or a new product you're working on, or maybe it's just a trend that you're really excited about more generally. When it comes to the future of travel, what are you most excited about?
Yeah. Well, I have two, I guess now adult children, you would call them, 23 and 21. And as they are going out into the world and starting their own more independent travel journeys, it's interesting to see how how they go about this, what tools they use, what trips they like to take, how they consume social media is really interesting, and how that influences their decision. And our brands are really well positioned for this next generation. It's really interesting. I mean, Vrbo has a huge number of TikTok followers, multiples more than our competitors. And maybe surprised to hear that it's a traditional brand in a traditional segment that has adapted and is doing well for this next generation. And that's what technology has allowed us to do. I would say just the thing that gets me most excited, though, is this big push into the marketplace. My role at Expedia Group is to work with our travel partners, and the thing that I hear over and over from them is like, we want quality demand, and we want it. We want to know that when we need it here, we get it there. When we need it, over here, we need something different that you can adapt. And having multiple sources of demand across these great brands and in a really large B2B network, I think positions us really well. I'd say more personally, I'm really excited to continue to explore new destinations. I've never been to safari in Africa, and have that planned now for next summer. My kind of big family trip that we've been planning for a long time. So, and we'll just continue to explore and discover new places.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about One Key as well, because I think that with respect to just product differentiations, marketplace differentiations, you guys have a loyalty program, which your obviously Expedia customers can take advantage of. I'd love for you to just share whatever you want to quickly on how One Key has helped support the various brands, the various businesses, and then maybe what we can expect in its maybe next iteration or next chapter, anything that you could share about observations that you guys have of how folks are using the loyalty program and the value it's delivering to Expedia partners.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. There are more than 168 million members, and it spans our three major brands, Vrbo, Expedia, and Hotels.com. And I told you I stayed in a hotel and then a Vrbo and then flew home. And all of that earns One Key Cash, and your One Key Cash can be burned across all those brands. So it's really a flexible program. So you can earn on Expedia Hotel and use it for a vacation rental on Vrbo. And travelers really like that, the flexibility that provides. Also, our partners have really use the program very effectively. We have a huge percentage of our bookings come through a special loyalty rate or with some sort of special perk for loyalty members. And that drives incremental share to our partners, and they've used it very tactically. Again, getting back to my revenue management days, it's a really effective tool for our partners. So we'll continue to develop that. There are some exciting products coming with that, and I think travelers and partners alike will really like that.
Yeah. Well, Greg, I am so thankful for your time and for you sharing a little bit of your story with us. Thank you for all the ways in which you I've heard really good things about you. So you clearly have the respect of your various teams. So.
I love the podcast, and so it was really a thrill to be on it. You have many great subjects and really interesting guests. So it's a privilege for me to be here with you, Zach.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And for our listeners, I'll have links to Greg's LinkedIn and any other social channels that he might have active. I'll just throw those in the show notes below if you want to stay up to date on cool things he's doing. And of course, if you want the latest and greatest on what Expedia Group is up to, look in the show notes below for fun links there as well. Greg, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Zach. It was great.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us for this episode of Behind the Stays. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Behind the Stays or send me an email at zach@journey.com. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a pleasure to have you, and we hope to have you back again soon. But if you've been a listener for a while, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show if you aren't already, and then leave us a rating and review of the show wherever you're streaming this podcast. Oh, and if you know a hotelier or a hospitality entrepreneur that's building something new and novel, I invite you to introduce them to me so that my team and I can discuss bringing them on the show. Again, you can just shoot me an email at zach@journey.com or a DM on Instagram. Behind the Scenes is brought to you by Journey, a next-generation loyalty program built for the modern traveler. We're looking to onboard new boutique hotels, unique stays, and the top vacation rental management companies onto our platform every day. If you're a hospitality entrepreneur who has a stay or a collection of stays with soul, we'd love for you to apply to join our alliance at journey.com/alliance. Again, that's journey.com/alliance. Thanks for being here, y'all. We will see you next time.